Okay, let's try a quick experiment. Just think about yourself for a second. Right now, when you stand in line, maybe waiting for coffee, or even brushing your teeth, do you always lean on the same leg? Like always the left or always the right?
Or when you sit down, say at your desk, do you cross the same leg over the other one? Every single time, without even thinking.
Yeah. And your bag, laptop, bag, backpack, whatever, does it automatically go on the same shoulder?
Yeah.
Or in the same hand? Consistently?
It's fascinating when you actually stop and notice, isn't it? Because I bet most runners listening just mentally went yes to all of those. And, why would you think twice? They're just tiny habits.
Totally unconscious. Micro habits, right? Seem completely harmless, convenient, comfortable.
Exactly. Driven by ease.
But what if they're not so innocent? What if these little off-the-road things, these ways we compensate, these tiny asymmetries we pick up just by living, what if they are the real reason behind those nagging chronic running injuries, the actual foundation?
Now that is the big question. The paradox, you could say, that we're really digging into today. Welcome, everyone, to the Runner's Paradox podcast.
We're jumping into chapter 15 of the Runner's Paradox. It's titled Off the Road, which is just perfect for this.
It really is, because this chapter, it pushes back hard against that old idea, the one that says your running form is only about what happens when you're actually running. Drills, track work, that kind of thing.
Right, the assumption that if you just run more, your form magically fixes itself. Like your body's a clean slate every time you lace up.
But it's not, is it? Ying's perspective here is so important. It forces us to look at our movement history. Our running gait isn't something we just invent on the spot. It's not this pristine technique we pull out for a run.
So what is it then?
It's more like a physical echo, an expression of decades of compensations, how we hold ourselves, all those off-road habits. It's like the body's core software deep down.
The operating system. The thing that runs in the background when we're not actively thinking about how we're moving.
Exactly. And today we're going to unpack why our bodies seem programmed to find the easy way, not necessarily the best way. Why changing bad habits feels so weird, so unnatural.
And how modern life, sitting, screens, all that is constantly sort of distorting us physically.
Yeah.
Setting us up for trouble the minute we ask our bodies to handle the load of running.
To really grasp this shift, the idea that your run's health depends on your non-run health, we need to follow these compensations back to where they start.
And just a reminder for everyone listening, this whole series, it's built around the insights in the Runner's Paradox.
That's right. So if you want to explore the stories, the research, the specific techniques we touch on today in more detail, definitely check out therunnersparadox.com. You can find out more and grab a copy of the book there.
Okay, let's tackle this idea first, the blank slate myth. It's a hard truth, as Ying puts it. When runners get advice, maybe from a coach or an article, there's this tendency to think, okay, my body's ready, just tell me the right drill, the right cue, and boom, fixed.
Yeah, and that's often where the frustration kicks in, right? Because the body is never a blank slate, never. Long before the running shoes go on, your body is already carrying this whole history. Every time you slouched, every time you leaned.
It remembers.
It absolutely does. The book really emphasizes that we pick up these muscular compensations, not really from sports, but from just living, day-to-day stuff. Innocent, repetitive things.
Okay, give us some examples. We hear sitting is bad, but how exactly is it messing with our running machinery? Like physiologically?
Well, think about shortening and lengthening. Slouching on the couch, hunching over a laptop, even driving for long periods. These positions keep your hip flexors, the psoas, the rectus femoris, in a shortened state.
Right.
And at the same time, the muscles on the opposite side, like your glutes and deep core stabilizers, they get chronically lengthened, kind of switched off. These aren't just minor things. They're actively reshaping your running foundation.
So they dictate which joints get stiff.
Exactly. Often the mid-back, the thoracic spine, and the hips. They determine which muscles tighten up, and crucially, which bad movement patterns get locked in by your nervous system because they feel easy or familiar.
Okay, so let's say my glutes are actually pretty strong from workouts. But if my hip flexors are super tight from sitting all day, the moment I try to push off when running, that tight hip flexors basically fights against the glute.
That's a perfect example. It restricts your power, limits your hip extension, and forces your body to find that power somewhere else. Maybe your lower back takes the strain or your hamstring has to overwork. Compensation kicks in immediately.
Which brings us to this idea of the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
Our bodies aren't consciously learning bad running form, right? They just find it.
Pretty much. It's acquired through repetition. Day in, day out. Your body is fundamentally an energy-saving machine. That's its prime directive, evolutionarily speaking. It prioritizes energy efficiency above almost everything else.
Even above perfect biomechanics.
Absolutely. It doesn't really care about your ideal foot strike angle or knee drive. It cares about getting you from A to B using the least amount of fuel possible, especially over long distances.
They don't have sense from a survival standpoint.
Totally. The energy cost is king. So when you repeat a movement that's maybe not optimal, like always leaning left when you stand, your body makes tiny adjustments. It tenses up the right side just enough to make that lean feel stable and, well, cheap in terms of energy.
And doing that over and over.
Exactly. That repetition, that preference for the easy route, it builds what the book calls a movement memory. It carves out a pathway in your nervous system. The brain basically says, okay, this feels easy. This must be the safe, efficient way to do things.
Which really underscores Ying's point. You can't walk badly and run amazingly.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
It can't. Your everyday habits, they're the software.
They are. And if that software is, kind of glitchy, defaulting to these twisted energy-saving patterns, you can't expect the high-demand program running to suddenly execute perfectly. Your habits set the stage.
And here's the tricky part, the paradox. These patterns feel comfortable because we repeat them, not because they're actually good for us.
Precisely. They become familiar. They are the path of least resistance for your nervous system.
That familiarity is like a camouflage, right? It hides the dysfunction really effectively.
Yeah.
If your nervous system has been running a certain compensatory program for years, it flags that program as normal, as safe.
Mm-hmm. As the book notes, it's difficult to identify maladaptive positions because they feel familiar. Any other movement, even the correct one, feels unnatural.
Right.
Our nervous system literally adapts to the dysfunction. It prioritizes what it knows, the status quo, over what might actually be better.
It's like trying to write with your non-dominant hand. You can do it, the hand works fine, but it feels incredibly awkward, tiring, just wrong.
Exactly. Because the neural pathways aren't built up. It's the same with movement. When a runner tries a correct movement pattern for the first time, maybe activating a sleepy glute or relaxing tight shoulders, the brain often resists.
It feels foreign, maybe even risky.
Yeah, it can feel high energy, inefficient, unfamiliar. So we naturally revert back to the easy, familiar, but flawed pattern. We perceive that as normal, and anything challenging it gets rejected pretty quickly.
And that comfortable, ingrained pattern just keeps running until
crack, the system breaks down. Which leads to that really critical idea. Pain is only the first step. That's a huge shift in thinking for most runners.
It really is.
What do we mean by that exactly? If someone gets sharp knee pain, don't they usually think, okay, that's when the problem started?
That's the common assumption, yes. I must have taken a wrong step. But the reality, according to this perspective, is that by the time you feel that acute pain, your system has already been adapting, compensating, overloading for a long, long time, often years.
So the nervous system just accepted the faulty movement as normal.
It codified it as normal, yeah. The body was substituting muscles, stiffening joints, all unconsciously.
Right.
But tissues have limits. They can only absorb so much accumulated strain before they fail. So the pain, the injury we notice, only shows up when the body finally stops compensating. It's the last resort signal, not the first sign of trouble.
That's the whole philosophy here. The real problem started way earlier, with those subtle habitual compensations, the microtraumas. If we wait for the pain, we're just reacting to the final breakdown, not addressing the years of faulty software programming that led up to it.
Okay, let's dig into this faulty software. What are these modern habits actually doing to undermine our readiness for running? The book talks about sustained postures and asymmetry.
We have to start with screens, right? Prolonged sitting, staring at monitors. It leads directly to that classic forward head posture, chin jutting out. And this isn't just about looking bad, it's structurally really damaging.
How so?
Well, it forces micro adjustments in your neck vertebrae. It puts constant strain on the muscles at the back of your neck while chronically shortening the ones at the front.
Which muscles are getting short and tight?
You're looking at the sternocleidomastoid, the scalens, the upper traps. They become hypertonic, basically on, all the time. Meanwhile, the really important deep neck flexors, the ones that stabilize your head, they get long and weak.
And that forward head position messes with proprioception too, right? Those sensors in the neck.
Absolutely. Proprioceptors tell your brain where your head is in space. If they're constantly stressed or getting faulty signals because of bad alignment, you lose that precise feedback. The brain can't accurately judge your head position relative to your torso.
So your eyes might level the horizon, making you think you're upright.
Exactly. Even if structurally you're tilted forward. Visual stability overrides postural stability. The brain gets tricked.
And that has downstream effects for runners, obviously.
Huge effects. When your neck and upper traps are chronically tight, your body often changes how it breathes. Instead of using the diaphragm efficiently belly breathing, it starts relying on those already tight neck and chest muscles, accessory breathing.
Which makes the upper body rigid.
Super rigid. It limits the natural torso rotation you need for an efficient stride, and it actually reduces your oxygen intake because you're not breathing deeply. Less fuel for the engine. That small postural microtrauma adds up. If you don't have the core strength to kind of reset after hours at a desk, it becomes macro trauma on the run.
Okay, so posture is one big input. What about asymmetry?
Hmm?
We mentioned leaning, but how does carrying a bag always on one side play out?
Think about the load. A heavy bag always on the right shoulder. Over time, that can create rotations in your mid-back, your thoracic spine, and compensatory stiffness lower down, maybe in the opposite side of your lumbar spine. Driving is another one.
How so?
Well, one foot's usually working the pedals, often slightly turned out right. That hip flexor gets tight. The other leg is just resting, passive. Your body is literally training one side to be different from the other.
Uneven training, just by living.
Precisely. And footwear. Even a small heel lifts your ankle, throws your center of mass forward. To stay upright, your body might lock your knees or arch your lower back more, using joints for stability instead of core muscles.
Then you switch to flat running shoes.
And your body has to suddenly recalibrate from that compensated position. Those tissues, already working inefficiently, now face the high impact of running. It's a recipe for breakdown.
This buildup really highlights why something called segmental dissociation is so important for avoiding injury. Can you unpack that?
Sure. Poor segmental dissociation basically means you can't isolate movement well.
Yeah.
When you try to move one part of your body, say, rotate your mid-back, other parts either lock up or move unnecessarily, like your pelvis twisting too much.
So different segments of the spine or body can't move independently.
Right. Think of your spine like Lego blocks, each designed for certain movements. Good dissociation means they can move smoothly relative to each other. Poor dissociation means they move like one stiff log.
And why is that particularly bad for running?
Because running demands constant stabilization from your postural muscles, core, spine, shoulder blades against gravity, and the forces of your stride. If you lack segmental dissociation, those stabilizing functions just crumble under load.
Give me an example.
Okay, if your thoracic spine is stiff from sitting, you can't get the necessary rotation there. So to compensate and drive forward, maybe you over-rotate through your lower back, which should be stable, or your hips wiggle side to side excessively.
So the torso gets rigid and the energy doesn't flow smoothly up the chain. It gets generated in the wrong places.
Exactly, vulnerable places. That's when you stir up those existing off-road issues. Instead of smooth, cyclical movement, you get jarring compensations, leading to things like piriformis pain, IT band syndrome, low back issues.
This connects perfectly to the story of Sam in the book. He had neck and back pain during intense runs and was totally surprised to learn it stemmed from how he held his head, a posture learned years before.
Yeah, Sam's story is a classic example. He was fit, disciplined, but started getting this pain during hard workouts. Couldn't figure it out. The physio pinpointed it almost immediately. You're holding your head incorrectly.
And the root. That rigid posture from his time in the National Police Cadet Corps. Very upright, chin tucked in hard, flattening the natural curve of his neck.
That's it. He'd essentially reprogrammed his cervical spine. So when he ran and tried to maintain that strong posture, his neck and upper back were too stiff to absorb impact or allow free movement.
So how did he compensate during the run?
To get that upright feeling and drive forward, he started arching his mid-back, too much thoracic extension, and really squeezing his shoulder blades together. He was trying to manufacture power through rigidity.
And that compensation caused other problems.
Big time. Arching his mid-back like that restricted his diaphragm. He couldn't breathe deeply, so he started using those already tight neck muscles even more for breathing. It created this tension feedback loop.
Worsening the original neck issue.
Right. And the constant mid-back arch put extra stress on his lower back joints, too.
So he wasn't weak, he was just locked into a bad pattern that felt normal to him.
Exactly. Fixing it wasn't about just resting or stretching the sore spot. It needed targeted retraining, learning to move the thoracic spine without arching the lower back, engaging the right deep postural muscles. It really shows that these patterns can be unlearned, but it takes reorganizing the whole system.
A perfect case of the body taking the familiar path, the path of least
Yeah.
resistance, until it hits a wall, a painful wall.
Indeed. And understanding this is the bridge to actually fixing things, which means looking at reorganization and evidence-based solutions.
Okay, and just pausing here for a moment, remember, this whole discussion is rooted in Chapter 15 of The Runner's Paradox. If you want to dive deeper into Ying's approach, the client stories like Sam's and the underlying principles, head over to therunnersparadox.com. You can get the book and find more resources there. So the big insight here is that fixing running pain really has to start way before the run itself. You can't just tweak your stride if the underlying software is flawed, right?
That's the absolute core idea behind reorganization. It's about moving beyond just treating the symptom like only rehabbing a tight hamstring. It's systemic. It means pairing new mobility with strength and, crucially, repeating those new functional movements until they become automatic, the new path of least resistance.
We're essentially reprogramming the nervous system's definition of what feels easy or normal.
Exactly. And this isn't just theory anymore. There's growing research backing this up, looking at how we can reorganize movement patterns. The book mentions some interesting studies from around 2023 to 2025.
Yeah, let's touch on those. First, there's work showing the immediate effects of gait changes.
Right. Esculi and colleagues published work in 2023. They showed that giving runners immediate gait modification cues, simple things about posture, foot strike, or cadence, could significantly reduce forces at the knee, especially for those with runner's knee pain.
Wow, immediate reduction. That suggests it's not just a structural issue, but a pattern that can be changed quickly.
Precisely. It highlights that these habitual patterns carry directly into running, but also that they're adaptable. The body responds quickly to targeted feedback. It shows these patterns are more like neurological habits than fixed fates.
The key was the feedback loop, making them aware and giving an alternative.
Yes. Even if the new way felt weird initially, it immediately lessened the damaging forces.
Then there's the work using machine learning to predict problems based on lifestyle. Sitapathy et al., 2024.
Yeah, this is fascinating. It directly connects our daily lives to potential running issues. Sitapathy's team used machine learning models, feeding them data about lifestyle stressors.
Like what kind of data?
Things like average hours spent sitting, screen setup, like if you use multiple monitors, forcing neck rotation, typical footwear, history of back stiffness, all that off-the-road stuff.
And the models could predict running gait issues from that.
They could. The models found strong links between, say, desk time and specific strain patterns during running. For example, it might predict a higher chance of overpronation or excessive hip drop on one side, just based on someone reporting they always carry their bag on the opposite shoulder and cross their legs a certain way.
Wow. It's like the model sees the dysfunction building up from your daily habits even before you feel pain. It confirms the misalignment is sort of baked in before you even run.
Exactly. And then there's the ICOL study from 2025, which looked at movement variability.
Okay, variability. Isn't the goal usually consistency? A perfect, repeatable stride.
That's the old sort of mechanical way of thinking. But no, movement variability here means the small, natural, unconscious differences in your stride from one step to the next, tiny variations in ground contact time, foot placement, knee angle.
So a little bit of difference is actually good.
It's essential. A healthy, resilient system is adaptable, not rigid. If your gait is perfectly identical every single step, you're delivering the exact same stress to the exact same tissues over and over.
Thousands of times. So if that one rigid pattern has a tiny flaw,
That flaw gets hammered relentlessly, leading straight to overuse injuries. An adaptable system can subtly distribute the load differently, preventing any one spot from taking too much abuse. Iqbal's work suggests the goal isn't rigid perfection, but building a robust, adaptable system that can handle variation.
so not a running robot hitting 180 steps per minute exactly, but an adaptable human. This really changes how we should think about unlearning bad habits, right? It's not about forcing corrections.
Absolutely. That's a
Yeah.
critical warning. The book talks about the cadence trap. People get obsessed with hitting a target number like 180 steps per minute.
Yeah, you hear that number a lot.
But if you try to force that cadence without first addressing the underlying issues like tight hip flexors or poor core stability, your body will find a way to hit the number, but it will compensate dangerously.
How so? What kind of compensations?
Maybe you shorten your stride unnaturally. Or you start arching your lower back more, or your hips start shifting way out to the side because your glutes aren't strong or mobile enough to handle that faster turnover correctly.
So you hit the magic number, but you might trade shin splints for back pain or hip problems.
Exactly. You're just chasing the symptom, step rate, while potentially worsening the underlying dysfunction. The real goal has to be building the capability first. Improve force transfer through the whole system, stable pelvis, connected core, efficient leg swing. Build the foundation correctly.
So the system can handle the stress, especially when you get tired on a long run, without resorting to those damaging compensations.
That's the essence of reorganization. Build the capacity, then let the optimal pattern emerge.
Okay, this sounds like a lot to tackle, but let's make it practical. For the runner listening who's now thinking, okay, my shoulder bag habit might be messing with my hip, what tools can they use to actually audit their non-running life for these subtle problems?
The starting point, really the most crucial thing, is boosting awareness. Proprioceptive awareness, body scanning. We have to stop just tuning out those little signals of tension or favoring one side.
How do we start paying attention?
Ying suggests simple tests, things you can do right now that instantly reveal asymmetries in your core and hip stability, things that will show up when you run.
Like the single leg stand. That seems basic, but sounds revealing. How do you do it effectively as an audit?
Find a flat, firm surface, take off your shoes, stand tall, then lift one knee up towards waist height. Try to hold it steady for, say, 5 to 10 seconds. The key is to observe. Do it in front of a mirror, or even better, film yourself quickly on your phone from the front and back.
Okay, got it. What are we looking for? What are the red flags?
From the front, watch the knee of the leg you're standing on. Does it wobble or collapse inwards? That often points to weak hip abductors. From the back, watch your pelvis. Does the hip on the standing side jut way out? Or, critically, does the hip on the lifted leg side drop down significantly? That's called a Trendelenburg sign.
And what does that hip drop mean?
It means your glute medius and core on the standing side aren't strong enough or aren't firing properly to keep your pelvis level. The body compensates by tilting or shifting. If you see a big difference between your left and right sides on this simple test,
That imbalance is definitely getting amplified massively when you're running, with much higher forces.
exactly. If you're unstable just standing there, imagine the instability multiplying with every single stride. That's the gap we need to close.
Okay, so awareness checks are step one. What about actively resetting or retraining? You mentioned dissociation drills.
Yes, targeted reset work. Drills that teach your body to unlearn rigid patterns and isolate movement again. Things like 4-point kneeling exercises or seated pelvic control drills are great for this.
Let's break down the 4-point kneeling one. People know cat-cow, but how do we make it about dissociation?
Right, standard cat-cow moves the whole spine. For dissociation, get on all fours, hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Keep your lower back and hips perfectly still. Imagine that glass of water balance there. Now, try to only move your upper back, your thoracic spine, rotate it gently, or try to round and arch just that segment between your shoulder blades.
So isolating the mid-back movement.
Precisely. It teaches the brain it can move segments independently, which is vital for that subtle rotation needed for efficient running.
And the seated pelvis control drill. How does that work?
Okay, sit right on the edge of a firm chair, feet flat, knees at 90 degrees. First, find your neutral pelvis rock. It's slightly forward and back. Find the middle spot where your sit bones feel even and your deep core feels just slightly switched on. That's your base.
Got it. Then what?
Now, keeping that neutral spine, slowly try to tilt your entire torso back just a tiny bit, hinging from the hips. The goal is to resist collapsing, resist letting your tailbone tuck under and your spine round out. You control the lean back using your deep, low abs and hip flexors, fighting gravity. Then use your core and sit bones to pull yourself back upright.
That sounds really subtle. What should you feel? Or maybe not feel?
You should feel deep engagement way down below your belly button transverse abdominis. Maybe some connection in the glutes helping stabilize. You should not feel your quads gripping hard or your upper back doing all the work by rounding. It directly trains pelvic control independent of the spine.
Which is key for running stability, especially for generating power from the hips, not the back.
Absolutely. If you can't control your pelvis sitting still, you definitely can't control it dynamically mile after mile when fatigue sets in.
So this whole approach, it's not about achieving some kind of rigid, perfect posture 24/7, is it? That sounds impossible.
No, definitely not. That's the old, outdated model. The goal, especially thinking about that Iqbal research on variability, is building an adaptable, resilient system. Life throws asymmetries at us carrying groceries, twisting weirdly, sitting on planes. A resilient system can handle those bumps without immediately defaulting to injury patterns when you go run.
So it absorbs the stress and bounces back.
Exactly. It's about optimizing resilience, not enforcing unattainable perfection.
That feels much more achievable.
Yeah.
And it ties into the more philosophical side Yang mentions, right? Can we actually become better runners just by being more conscious movers all day long?
The answer seems to be a clear yes. When you start paying attention, really noticing how you sit, stand, breathe, which side you favor, you gain a level of control. You start influencing those infinite factors that shape your running rather than just focusing on the finite stuff like age or genetics.
It reframes running from just physical output to something requiring deeper awareness, even in the mundane moments.
It's incredibly empowering, actually. It puts more control back in your hands. Becoming a conscious mover might be the best form of prehab there is. Hashtag tag outro wow.
Wow. Okay, so exploring Chapter 15 of The Runner's Paradox really drives home that a huge part of the work happens, well, off the road. It's about looking at our foundation, maybe updating that core software before we even think about speed work.
Absolutely. And to help you start applying this right away to begin your own movement audit, we want to leave you with 5 reflective questions. Think about these on your next walk, or even just sitting here now. See what comes up about your own habits.
All right, here are the 5 questions for you.
First, what movement patterns off the road, how you sit, stand, carry things, might be quietly shaping how you run?
Second, where in your day do you consistently feel tension or notice you favor one side? And does that feeling ever show up during or after a run?
Third, do you think you might confuse familiarity, what feels comfortable, with what's actually efficient or healthy in how you move?
Fourth, have you ever tried to change your running form, maybe focus on foot strike or cadence, without also changing anything about your daily posture or habits?
And finally, number 5, what would it look like for you to get genuinely curious about your body between runs, not just during them?
That curiosity, that awareness, that seems key.
It's the pathway to resilience.
So we've tackled the off-road habits, the software update. Looking ahead, Chapter 16 is titled On the Road. What's the focus there?
Now we take that improved awareness, that reorganized movement potential, and we learn how to build real strength with it, and not just muscle strength in the gym sense. We're talking about adaptive intelligence strength, long-range resilience while running.
So reinforcing the good patterns under actual running load, making sure the changes stick when things get tough.
Exactly. How to consciously engage those patterns and build endurance in them so your form doesn't fall apart when you get tired.
Sounds essential. We hope you'll join us for that next time as we continue exploring the runner's paradox. And one last reminder, all of this is drawn from the book. You can find out more and get your copy at therunnersparadox.com.
Definitely subscribe if you haven't already. Maybe listen to this while you're walking or even just moving around during your day. And remember, sometimes the run really does begin long before you hit start on your watch.
Until next time, be a conscious mover, stay curious, and happy running.